Hello, Undocu Hustlers. Welcome to Undocu Hustle Show. I am your host, Senator Flores. And today I am here in beautiful San Francisco. I am so excited that I had the opportunity to go to Skyline College to present and give some words and share my journey about entrepreneurship with students from the college. The Dream Center put a wonderful event together for their Undocu Week of Action, where all the community colleges throughout California do a whole Undocu Week where they present information for those who have DACA or not DACA in ways to better themselves, their education, their profession. And so I'm super excited to have been able to share my journey as an entrepreneur who started 5 years ago. This crazy journey of entrepreneurship that has helped me throughout the years in learning different ways on how to market, learn SEO, various things that us as entrepreneurs have to ultimately figure out and learn. And so I'm so excited that I was able to share my knowledge and my 2 cents on how I started my business and my journey. So I hope that you can take something out of this, and if there's anything throughout the video that catches your attention, please leave a comment below so I can start a dialogue with you in regards to entrepreneurship. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I like to say that I'm a rising entrepreneur. I have, for the past 5 years, have been through subconsciously been teaching myself and finding new ways and learning new things about entrepreneurship that has allowed me today to be in a place where I am financially dependent from having to rely on other people to employ me when situations sometimes are not on our favor, where we don't have the proper documents to be able to work. And so over the past 5 years, as I mentioned, I have started different side hustles that have turned into a real business that now has allowed me to not only support myself financially, but also have other staff who are as well part of the business. But before I start talking more about that, I want to kind of share a little bit about my story and who I am. I, like many of you, was brought to this country through no fault of my own. I was brought here when I was 7 years old. My mom immigrated from Mexico, and she brought my younger brother and I in 1997 to California, here in California. I say to California like we're not here. That's just because I'm traveling from Denver. That's where my business is at. That's where I reside right now. I reside in Denver, Colorado, which I'll share how I ended up in Denver. But when we immigrated here in 1997, one of my mom's first jobs was to work on a campaign. She was a canvasser. She would go door to door knocking for doors for elected officials or candidates who were oftentimes promising immigration reform, that immigration stuff was going to happen. This was in 1997. So now we're in 2019 and we're still in the same predicament that we were back in 1997. So don't let me get started with that. But so in 1997 we arrived here, and that's when my mom found her first job. And not knowingly, I would later on become also in campaign field and be involved in a lot of campaigns, because that's where my mom kind of took us as her job. One of the things that my mom instilled in us was the value of work. I realized in looking back is that, like my mom, there's a lot of people in our community who have to often rely on side hustles or side work, like selling tamales, perfumes, colchas in the winter, the things that you don't realize are to really put money on the table, because it's never enough. Our communities are oftentimes underrepresented when it comes to pay, which is why I pay all my staff at least $15 an hour, because I truly believe that making sure that everybody needs to have a living wage, not just a minimum wage, but a living wage. And those are the values that my mom has instilled in me since a little kid. not knowing, really. Like, my mom never sat down and told me, Alejandro, this is what you're going to do, and this is ethical, and this is not ethical, and this is moral, and this is not moral. It was never like that. It was taught through watching the hustle that my mom had and what she does. And nowadays, she sees that she had an impact on me because I talk about it. A lot of us don't talk about how the impact that our parents brought into our lives, but it's huge, which is one of the reasons that I have taken this route on coming and sharing my story and talking to people about the hustle, because it's attainable. It's just not talked about in the level where it makes a difference and an impact in our communities. One of the sayings that I like to go around and talk about is that I left Santana in California because I wanted to come back, with a little bit more money, have a career, and just really make my community proud. But I was always thinking of, I'm going to come back with riches. And what I thought about it was that I was going to come back like hood rich. Does anybody know what hood rich is? Right? Hood rich is that really you can't really afford anything you have. You're just, having the, cleanest, whitest Nikes. You're rolling in that BMW. That's hood rich. What I want to do is I don't want to be hood rich. I want to make the hood rich, which is a huge difference. It's something that we need to come back into our communities and empower them to ensure that they have the economic sustainability, the capital, the resources, the education to truly be able to scale up their businesses so that they can create wealth and not just have extra income to pay for the bills, to pay for the rent, to pay for the groceries, because that's what it's been like. I remember growing up, my mom, after selling, going door to door, talking to people about campaign stuff, she would also then go to door when she was off, but this time to sell things. She would sell cheesecakes and flans. And she made a lot of money. I remember, as a little kid, we would go to Smart and Final and buy a bunch of lecheras, 150 cartons, a lot of eggs. We went through a lot of eggs. But that also instilled the understanding of marketing for me and figuring out how so you can get to some customers. And all of this was at a time where, again, I never thought that I was going to be an entrepreneur. There was never a thing where entrepreneurship was viable or a word or something that was cool for us to pursue, even though it was all around us, and it has been all around us. And I go back to saying that, we see the elote man selling elotes or raspados or, whatever, mostly also food related, right? They go back to what they know what to do best, which is cooking. And so all throughout my childhood, I saw my mom and all the things that she instilled in me. And when I got my first job, one of my first jobs was working in the campaign field. I was 16 years old, and I was registering people to vote. When I couldn't vote, I was registering others to vote. And that's where I really found a passion for politics. I became, my last position that I had, I was a political director for an organization called America Votes. It's a nationwide organization, and I happen to be in Colorado. But the way that I got into campaigning again was through my mom's influence. I remember hated going to the campaign office when I was a young kid, but my mom couldn't afford a babysitter. So what it was, the next thing to do is to come. And one of the things that I really loved, which is kind of displayed here, was all the food. I remember every time, you want to have volunteers, and in order to have volunteers, you got to have free food. And so I remember always having a blast during the beginning, but then hated the actual door-to-door stuff. Years later, I come across and realizing that I became a campaign manager, and I started managing my own campaigns. In 2015, I was given the opportunity to work in Boston, and this is because I was able to get DACA. I got DACA in 2012, and through DACA, I was able to get a work permit that allowed me to go into campaign and really figure out what I wanted to do in the campaign world. Eventually, I became a district director, state director, where I managed hundreds of campaigns all throughout the United States, which became really fun. But also, I came to a place where I also needed a side hustle because I didn't have enough money. And that's where my upbringing and realizing that my mom, whenever she was in a pinch, she would resort back to her side hustles, whether that be selling jewelry, selling perfumes, bolchas, as I mentioned. I took on for myself to realize, what can I do to sell, to make a side hustle that's going to be mine, that's going to be something that I create. And looking back again, I've come to realize that how it was so easy for me to go from concept to an actual execution. And it's because there's a lot of things that I have that, for example, my mom doesn't have, right? So I speak the language. I can communicate. I can get into a market that she can never get into. I also understood technology a lot better, and there's platforms that can allow you to truly go from concept, from idea to concept to actually selling stuff. And that was the platforms that were around me. And so I decided to start my own sunglass company out of just a random idea. Started just going through ideas myself of what could I create that I can sell that would be mine, and it would be my brand, and I would go at it. And I've spoken to a lot of people who want to start their own little hustles, and it's always similar to what my idea was, which was like, okay, let me sell T-shirts or hats or socks or something that they can imprint their logo or their design, posters, those different kinds of things that I've thought about. And I ended up coming to sunglasses because I feel like, for example, creating T-shirts would require a lot of creative mind and a lot of creative thinking, and I don't have that. So, and then same things with hats and fashion, and so I decided, what is it, something that I always lose, and that others can lose as well, and they can keep coming back to me, which was sunglasses. I developed a company that was we're selling sunglasses at $10, and we're marketing to an audience that is very college-oriented, just like I was at the time, who could not afford to go buy Ray-Bans every time we lost them, right? I remember buying Ray-Bans, paying $150 for them, and then 2 weeks later, I lose them, and I can't go back and just buy another pair. I had to wait another month or whatever to save up. And so between the saving up, I became the company that gave you stylish, cool sunglasses, which I brought some to give away, and I brought some to sell as well. So everybody can go away with a pair. So I developed this company, Unum Sunglasses, and through that, I learned so much. I learned the value of just getting it and getting started, and I'm saying all of this, again, from a perspective of looking back, not at the time when I was doing it. None of this made sense. I was just going for it, which I am so happy that I took that leap, because throughout the 5 years that I started this idea of I'm going to start my own business, I started learning how I can import things from China to the United States, what licenses I need to have to get that done. I came to understanding SEO, search engine optimization, marketing, social media, customer relations, a lot of principles that are interchangeable and are quickly to be able to adapt to another concept. I also started to really take in this entrepreneurship thing, and it made it viable, it made it real for me, right? A lot of us here probably, if you're in, first of all, who has heard of the term ROI? ROI. Cool, a few hands. What does ROI mean? Hello? Who?
Return on investment.
Return on investment, ROI, right? I kept hearing all those terms everywhere. Terms like ROI and capital investments and blah, blah, all these things that were never in our curriculums, they were never in our parents' vocabularies, our parents' education, so we never talked about those things, right? My father and my mother were not bankers, were not, educators. They didn't have the knowledge to pass down to me. And so when I started seeing all these jargon, it also made it scary for me. But now I come to a place where I understand those things and what they mean. And I've also come to understand that when somebody talks saying ROI, you're already in a place where you have capital to invest, right? So even if I know what the word ROI means, doesn't mean that I can contribute to it, because I have no money. So therefore we're stuck, right? So return on investment, we don't have anything to invest, so what are we supposed to do, get stuck? So I've recently came up with a word. I heard a word that I've now incorporated into my living and into my thinking, which is COI. Anybody can take a guess what COI would stand for? No? Free sunglasses, whoever can get it. Contribution on investment? No. Control investment? No. Here it is. Cost of inaction. Cost of inaction, right? So I don't have the money to get an ROI on my money, right? But I can measure the cost of inaction, right? The cost of me not going and buying those 10 t-shirts for $5 and then reselling those t-shirts for $10 each, I can measure the cost of inaction. And I can see what I'm losing. So I started to implement that in my thinking. And I used to think that it was that people were procrastinators because they didn't want to start a business. Because been getting questions like this for a long time now, where Alejandro, how did you do it? What did you do? And I would say, I went to this place, I got the business license, and I figured out how to, secured my name, I got a bank account, right, steps by steps, and then 2-3 weeks later, I reach back to the person, hey, how's it going? Where are you at right now? And it's, no, they haven't done anything. And so I was like, that person, they're such procrastinators. They're such procrastinators, right? But now I realize that when you throw people into a place where there are no safety nets for us, there are no programs that are directly made for us, that these type of language and wording and trying to get into the system, we're already in the back, and it's hard to get into that position. And so I want to make it where it seems attainable. And if there's anything that I want anyone to walk out of this room, is that you measure the cost of inaction, of not starting whatever concept you're thinking, whether it's starting a hair salon, whether it's becoming the next CEO of a financial capital firm, like whatever that is, not getting started right now or figuring out how to get started will set you back even further. Just thinking of myself right now, if I would have not started this little sunglass company 5 years ago, right? Even though to this day, like it's never been like a multi-million-dollar profit company for me. It has not at all in the sense of revenue and money. But it has been such a valuable option for me, and learning and taking those fears away from me. It was scary going into the city hall and trying to figure out how to get a business license the first time. Definitely, right? Especially because I didn't have the documents. I got DACA, and then that helped me, but right now, I don't have DACA anymore. So I'm back into a place where a lot of us are, and a lot of our community is at right now. And if it wasn't for me starting that 5 years ago, today I would be starting from scratch and trying to figure it out, which is not a bad thing. But I know that in 5 years from now, I might have another opportunity that will get me, I'll have a head start on things. And let me give you a perfect example of that. I started this whole side hustle of starting the business, the sunglass business, which not only was it interesting, it was super fun. Like I love the process I come to the realization that I love the process of entrepreneurship. I like figuring out how to start something up. I like the way how to market something. I like the campaign aspect of creating a marketing campaign to get more dollars into your store. All of that I enjoyed. So in 2016, the tragedy happened where Donald Trump got elected into office, and I freaked out. I freaked out super, super hard. A lot of thoughts came to my mind. What do I do? How am I going to protect myself and my family? And again, I think I went back to entrepreneurship because I realized that, okay, at least I have Unum sunglasses. If I lose my job, I can go back into my hustle. So let me spend more time and more money in my hustle to figure out how I can scale it up or make it bigger. And in that process of trying to figure out how to make a quick buck faster, I came across selling buttons, like little political buttons, like political driven buttons that say like, immigration is our foundation, or America's Great, just different things that were I can't think of many more right now, but I had like 35 different designs. And this came about, this whole resistance movement that everybody wanted to now be woke, right? And I was at a women's march, and I saw a lady selling t-shirts, and then I saw another man selling waters, and then I saw another person selling just different things around the the women's march. And there was hundreds and thousands of people in the streets. Some of you might have been involved in these rallies and demonstrations. And so with the knowledge I already had on the sunglasses, I could, it was 17 days, get buttons printed and shipped from China, imported from China, passing customs, passing everything I needed to do with the money I had, which was less than $1,000, and go sell some of these buttons. And so now my idea was, and then also I had to go figure out how to get the business license, right? But I already knew how to do that. It was quickly, I had to secure a name, I had to get a bank account, I had to get a tax ID number, how to get all these things to make this business legit. But it took me a week to do it because I already knew where to go, I knew what papers I needed, I knew what documents I needed to have, and I was quickly able to start up this button business where my thought was like, if I go and I sell $200 worth of buttons, I will be good and I'll be happy. Well, we left that event and we sold out the buttons that we took. So I made like about $800 in just like 2 hours. Selling buttons, it was two buttons for two for $5, so 2 buttons for $5. And the white people there were loving it. You know? They have supplemental income, they can afford it. So, so it was, I made a lot of money and then realized that, wow, this can be a model that can be duplicated. And I had already done a lot of campaign work in many cities throughout the United States. I lived and worked in Boston, in the Bronx, in Las Vegas, in California, Connecticut, so different places where I had campaign work. And that also, I was like, I can duplicate this model in all those cities, staff people to go to these women marches and sell buttons for me. And I did that. And so last year, the year before, we were selling buttons in like 7 different cities. And each city was generating about $3,000 profit. Which in one day I had a big boost of income all of a sudden. And it was great. I have never had that amount of money in my bank account in my life. And that realization of, okay, I need to continue this entrepreneurship hustle and really take this money and invest it into something. Right now I can make that whole ROI a reality. Before, 5 years ago, ROI was just a concept. Like I had nothing to invest. Now I had actual revenue and money that I could invest. So my thought was like, okay, I'm gonna take this whole button thing and go crazy with it. And that didn't play out so good because it took a lot of time. It was just a lot of work, which is another thing I want to tell you all. If you do want to go into entrepreneurship, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. However, I like I said before, it's a lot of time. However, I don't have any other money to pay somebody else to do it, so therefore I'm going to end up doing it myself. And that's why it becomes a lot of time. You'll get to a point where then you can start hiring people, and therefore you won't be spending a lot of your own time. But during the beginning, lots and lots of time that you'll be spending. So I got those profits, and an opportunity came to me to be able to buy a food truck, a local food truck in Denver. And the idea was brought into me because my business partner knew that I liked the entrepreneurship hustle, that I was always selling something, promoting something, but it was always mine. And so he goes, Alejandro, I know that you know business, which I didn't. I just knew how to play the game, right? And it was learning business. And so I said, show me the numbers. Like if I knew what I was talking about, right? Show me the numbers. So he shows me the numbers, and I was like, whoa, what I read at that time was that this food truck that was owned by 2 ladies were only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and within those 4 days that they were open, they were, at the end of the month, they would be racking up like $10,000 in just 4 days that were being open. I was like, how are they doing this? And so I said, let's do it. Let's go in. I put in my money. He put in his money. We bought the food truck. And yeah, we were so excited. However, so it's called Stokes Poke, which is a Hawaiian poke food truck. We opened on October 30th last year in Denver, where it snows and it's very cold. So we opened during our winter months. And you know, we had a debate, my business partner and I had a debate whether we were going to open it in the winter months or not. And I chose to say yes, because I said, if we wait till summer to open, we're going to get hit with all these problems and all these things that we don't know about in our busiest time of the year. So why don't we open in the winter and figure out all these kinks so that when we do get to summer, we have a very successful summer. And so I was able to feel like I was able to bring that knowledge into play because I took the action of starting the hustle and business 5 years ago. Because I've had launches and I've had things where I understood seasons and it all just played out where I was, you know, making right decisions. So we bought the business, realized that in this winter we weren't making a lot of money. Food trucks don't make a lot of money in the winter. Nobody wants to be standing outside, you know, when it's snowing or raining. So then that made me think about pivot. Okay, what can we do to survive? Because my business partner quit his job to run the food truck. I was still working as a political director for 2 months, but then realized that we can, you know, do a lot with catering. So I started really just diving into catering, figuring out how I can make catering pop. And again, I resulted back in the platforms that are out there for us already. Just like I was able to quickly start up a sunglass business through a platform, Shopify, that is an e-commerce shop that allowed me to basically just plug things in and get started really quickly. I thought if there was there such thing for catering? Like, is there a website I can create for catering that appeals to people who are looking for caterers? And in my research, I came across that there's a lot of almost like a broker. You know, they'll find you gigs, they'll charge you anywhere from 15 to 30%, and you take on the client and you deliver the food. So I started building these partnerships with catering agencies. And I was quickly able to get all the requirements that they needed because I knew exactly where to go find those resources. So they were asking for insurances and policies and workers' comp information and all these things that none of my staff I didn't have for the business, my staff didn't have. And so it got me to a place where I was 100% legit across the board, where if a college, for example, wants you to cater, there's a big process that you have to go through first to get approved to be serving food on a campus, which now any campus can call my catering business and I can deliver food there right away, and I don't have to worry about all the permits and licensings and stuff because I got those already. So we ended up partnering up with 5 different catering platforms, and right now our food truck and our catering business, or actually our catering business triumphs our food truck business. We are making about 85% of our profits in the catering side. Today we had a $5,000 catering delivered for 275 people. And so if I can get one of these a week, I'm solid, right? So it's finding those things. And I come to realize that our community doesn't have those resources readily available to them. I've walked into restaurants before that their food is delicious, but I can tell that the restaurant is struggling because there's no foot traffic going into the restaurant. And so I've taken it onto myself to become a food truck mentor. I'm part of a mentorship program in Denver, Colorado, where other people who are looking to scale up, and most of these folks are cooking out of their homes, like cooking tamales or whatever food that they have out of their homes, and then reselling them. A pupusa lady and a tamale lady are 2 of my mentees. And it's how can we get them all the information that they need to be able to have the licenses and the required documents to be able to get gigs through a catering agency. So I've been working with them through that mentorship program, which saddens me in a way, because it almost feels like if you're lucky enough to be part of one of these programs, if you are knowledgeable enough to find resources like that, then it's like you get a golden ticket and then you get to be a caterer and you get to have all those licenses, which it shouldn't be that way. I've had the opportunity to speak in many places, including city halls with local elected officials, where I always share and I talk about how agencies, whether those be nonprofits, for-profit, government agencies, need to create systems and procedures that are non-apologetically benefiting people of color, benefiting the undocumented community, benefiting the immigrant community, and not be afraid of it. And what am I talking about when I say like unapologetically creating resources? The other day I was giving a presentation. It was like a similar TED Talk presentation like this. The person who came before me is an amazing entrepreneur. She, all power to women entrepreneurs. She was this white lady from some part of Colorado who has a very successful business doing like zip lines and things like that. She was talking about how she was able to secure a partnership with the city, a $10 million grant the city gave to her, and basically gave away the land for free to create this recreational thing, right? I wonder how can and I said during my speaking thing, I said, I wish I had the clear pathway to a $10 million grant that would allow me to build a recreational center in the heart of displaced communities so that the resources are there for them right then and there whenever they need them. That's what I would do, right? But we don't have those opportunities readily available to us. So we need to talk about what we want. We need to talk about to our city and elected officials, agencies that are out there who control some grant money, to saying we got to give it back to people, and we got to do. I have an idea that I wish, and I'm working with some folks back in Denver, where I want to do clinics. Just I remember when I first got my DACA and I went to a clinic to get guidance on like how to fill out the paperwork because it was scary, right? Now I can fill it out by myself and it's not a big deal anymore. But we should create clinics, like business clinics, where people come in and they leave with their health department checked off, with their city license checked off, with their state license checked off, everything that they need to be able to start and scale up. And so I want to now turn it back to the room, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I first like to share that I'm no expert. I'm simply sharing my journey, sharing the step that I have taken to scale up, to turn a side hustle into my main hustle. In May of this year, I was able to quit my full-time job. That was one of the most hardest decisions I have had to make in a while. Because I remember looking back when I left Santana, and I said I want to come back with all this knowledge about campaign work and really be in the level of high-ranking campaign managers where like I'm getting paid the big bucks, right, to run campaigns. And I decided that that was no longer going to be my route, because I realized that I would not be able to create wealth in that path. I don't want to go back to my hood looking, being hood rich. I want to go back to my hood and make the hood rich. And I knew that I could not do that through my campaign work, but I can definitely do two things with my business right now. I can create wealth for myself, and I can also create systems and open up doors for others who want to take the same route of entrepreneurship and say that, you know what, it's attainable for us, regardless of status. I started with DACA. I currently don't have DACA, but I have the most success in business that I've had since I started, which I attributed to, back to my mom, to the influence that I've had from her, to, my, being a practitioner and saying I'm gonna go for it and I'm gonna do it. And all of it was started with less than $5,000. All my hustles were less than $5,000. And so I just want to put it out there that if you want to start something, talk to me. I'm willing to just share information, give you resources that I've used that have helped me, regardless of what kind of venture you want to go into. I think that at the end of the day, all of it is very similar. It's interchangeable. Business is a way that I found to truly bring wealth to my community, and I hope that many of you, take this route as well, or look at it as a viable option. That it's an option there for us that it's not really talked about, but we can definitely take that route as well. So thank you so much, and I want to open it up to the room for any questions.
Thanks so much for coming today. Do you have any specific plans for what's next for you, or anything new that's going on that you can tell us about?
Yeah. So I realized that here in Denver, my food truck business through catering, I was able to scale it up really quickly, and the partnerships that I build in the catering, those platforms, those partnerships are sometimes nationwide. So some of these platforms have also catering opportunities in Austin, Texas, and Washington, and New York, because they're a national company. So for example, I'll give you an example one. They're called Food Up. They're pop-ups that you go in an office building, you just put a table and you put all your food in and you sell it to people when they go on lunch break. From those big high rises, they come down the elevator, and the first people they see, it's your food. So I built a partnership with them, and they have services in Austin. So I think that's where I'm going to go next. Just like the buttons, where I was like, wow, I was able to make so much money here, I can duplicate the same model elsewhere because I have procedures and systems that allow me to quickly duplicate what I have. And so the next step for us is go to Austin, Texas, and open up a whole catering department there without a food truck, using the models that we use now, which is a shared kitchen model. We share our kitchen with an existing restaurant. It's called Boogie Down Bar and Grill. The bar is still standing. The grill part, they stopped operating it. And so I looked and I said, hey, would you rent me your kitchen? I will be your grill. And at the same time, make all my food and my caterings. And so I was able to get a deal with them. I only pay $500 a month for a full kitchen that is mine. So my overhead is so much lower, which is a procedure and a system that I created that I know I can duplicate in other cities. So that's what I plan to do.
When you're filling out your the legal documents and the bank account and things like that, how is that different in your experience being undocumented versus someone who isn't? What is that procedure? How is that different?
So there's no procedure difference in the way that I approached it whether I had DACA or when I didn't have DACA. And the reason why is because I applied for all my licenses through an LLC. And in order to get an LLC, you have to have an EIN, which is an employer identification number that you can get from the IRS, right? So the IRS basically gives your business a social security number. So then anything that I do for business related, applications, banking stuff, all that stuff, is none of my info. It's all my LLC. So we're called Will Cook Food Group. Will Cook Food Group, that's our business license, that's our checking, everything is under our LLC, which, by the way, when I had my DACA valid, I didn't even use any of it. Now that I don't, I still don't use anything. The only thing that I was using was my DACA card, my work permit, as an actual format identification to prove lawful presence, because in the state of Colorado, it's not like California, where, which by the way, I'm so hopeful that we can get a professional business licensing available for everybody in the state of Colorado, like they have here in California. But over there, you have to prove lawful presence in order to get a business license.
Can you talk about that for a sec, how that's available here in California?
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure how it's available here. I just do know that the state legislature passed a bill basically saying that we're graduating all these people from college with professional degrees to be lawyers, nurses, tax accountants, whatever. They all need a professional license. And so that became a path now that folks who have the California ID can now obtain that as well, right?
Yeah, and so even students that are here getting a Cosmo license or getting a real estate license, all of that, as an undocumented student, you can still legally get those licenses and then go the LLC route and start your own business with whatever license you have. You can be an attorney, you can be a doctor, you can have a private practice, and so this is why I say being in school is so important, even if you don't think you have job prospects, because you really do, and once you have that degree and that license, then all the doors are open for you to really jump in and do the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see, so those are, earlier I was talking about unforeseen barriers. Not everybody sees some of these barriers until you're actually there, right? So one of the, when I was getting one of my business licenses, I tried to use my work permit card, right? And the city of Denver didn't have it listed in their list of IDs that they would accept to check off that you were a lawful presence in the country. And I had an argument with the person at the front desk, right? It's like, this proves my lawful presence. Can you see it's issued by the United States government? But it's not on the list, so therefore they couldn't take it. Now, I came across that barrier, and I knocked doors, and I made press conferences. I got the city hall to get on their feet, and they changed that, and they added the DACA card, the work permit, as a form to prove lawful presence. But they were saying it's not a big deal. If they would have come to the office, we would have taken it. And I said, no, that's not true, because it happened to me. And second, if it's not listed on a document, there's people who won't even go to the office. Why am I going to go to the office when my ID that's accepted is not even on here? So there are barriers out there that aren't foreseen for us that I think the more and more we get involved and become entrepreneurs, we show that those barriers can be knocked down and that others could start up. Any other questions? Anybody have a hustle here that they have or they want to start? What do you have?
I'm trying to sell lashes.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
There's this, the makeup and beauty industry is so fascinating and so lucrative. And I think it's also pretty easy to start up once you find the right distributor, right? You just find a distributor that has lashes that you like, that are good for you, that you like, yeah, these are bomb, right? I would share this with my girls or with my boys. And then find somebody who makes, boxes with your logo, with all your stuff, and then you just repackage those and, resell those. I think that's a really cool thing. Send me an email or let's chat, because I have some distributors that can help you with designing logos, distributors that can help you start your own boxes. So I have, for my sunglasses, they are shipped out in personal custom boxes. That company is called Arca, and they're actually partnering up with me to do a couple of podcasts with them on how to encourage other people to create custom boxes that are gonna, just when a customer gets a custom box versus a plain box, right? You have a better a customer who's more engaged and likely to return. So yeah, I can help with that.
Thank you.
See, if you have a thing, I can maybe have an idea for you.
Even an idea, something you're considering.
Yeah.
So how did you go? You said you opened the food truck and then you opened the poke.
So the food truck is the poke truck.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's the same concept. It was an existing business. So that business was open in the summer of 17, the summer of 2018, and they sold it to us after the summer of 18. So we had revenue numbers from 2 summers. So when we bought it in the fall. We bought it right around August, and then we didn't start it to October 30th. So we're about to come up to our first year in business.
Sorry to follow up.
Yeah.
How was the process for food application, registration of the
Yeah.
business and everything?
So it varies county by county, city by city, state by state. So the process here in California and specifically in this county, you'll be able to find that in the city website. I know that in Denver, you just plug in food truck or street vendor. In Colorado, you have to have a license if you want to be a food truck. You have to have a different license if you want to sell at a pop-up.
You have to have a whole different license if you want to sell in a restaurant. It's like so weird, but yeah. Oh yeah. I'm gonna give a couple of these away. Actually, who wants a pair of glasses? I don't have an intent of selling them. We'll give some. I'll give some at the end for sure. Yeah.
The people who you employ, are they undocumented or documented or both?
Mhm.
And how you find people to employ?
Yeah. So I don't ask. You know, I'm not an immigration officer. So when we started, we also started very like startup way, where like, okay, I got my friend. It's like, hey, do you need a job? You do need a job? Okay, I need staff. Come in, just get in the kitchen, and we'll figure all that stuff later. So we are. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. But I hired people through mostly friends, and then we did a couple of ads, Craigslist ads, where we hired folk. But I'm very intentional as well as to where I place ads or who I hire, which makes an important difference. So like, instead of placing an ad on Facebook like I normally do, I also was very intentional to go and place a handwritten ad on a local market where I know people who look like me, people who speak my language, who will need a paid $15 an hour job would be. So also, very intentional in the way that we hire. Status at the end of the day, I think it's irrelevant for my business. Yeah.
You mentioned social media, but I just want to ask, what are other ways that you think are good for sort of networking and getting yourself out there even when you don't have a business? Like just, I guess, establishing yourself as someone who like you can go to and then finding other connections like that?
So, I think that there are agencies out there who promote entrepreneurship, small business entrepreneurship. Like, I don't know, for me, the only one that might be recognizable to a lot of people is like the small business, SBO, small business association. I forget what it is, but it's like I have to figure out the name, but there's like associations out there who focus solely, like a chamber of commerce, for example, like something along those lines where they promote like local mixers. I would look there because there's a lot of opportunities there at times where they also provide like free workshops or different things. I know that in Colorado, there's like a workforce development center in the heart of downtown that focuses a lot of entrepreneurship. So like that's a place I would go to connect with folks.
So I have, so it's Small Business Administration, and
Yeah.
we actually also have.
SBA.
Yes, and we have it's part of Skyline College, but it's off campus. We have our Bay Area Entrepreneurial Center. So they actually, this afternoon, they're doing a Start Your Business workshop. So they have mixers. The director of the Bay Area Entrepreneurial Center, which is part of Skyline, so students, you can go for free and work there. So it's a co-working space where you can work, you can talk to other individuals, you can help starting your business, and it's all for free for students.
And the Bay Area Entrepreneurship Center will actually be doing a workshop here in this room from 3 to 4 today.
Perfect.
So if you want to see them today, you can actually do that here.
So they're a really great resource.
Okay. There was another question over here. Yeah.
Excuse me, I was just gonna say congratulations for your success so far.
Thank you.
And then you mentioned your mom earlier when you were speaking, how she was obviously an influence. So how proud is she of you? Like, what does she say about this whole entire process, right? 'Cause
I'm pretty sure she's pretty proud. I'm pretty sure. In fact, I'm gonna take this up a notch. I'm pretty sure I'm the favorite child. I think I don't know. It is very heartwarming to know that we are, regardless of status, regardless of the media and the things that are portrayed about us, that we are, especially people who have been here for only one generation or who don't, who are new immigrants, to be able to see that it can be done. I think it's a moment to really highlight and to showcase that, look, this stuff can be done, and We just gotta share it more. We gotta talk about it. Like, I remember, to be honest, I was embarrassed at times of my mom's side hustles. I was like, ay, mano, que vergüenza. Like, I'm not about to do that, right? Like, I don't want to go knock. Like, no, I don't want to go knock on doors and sell cheesecakes. Like, I was embarrassed. But, like, it shouldn't be an embarrassment. Like, I should have been so proud to know that my mom was an entrepreneur. Like, right? But instead, I saw it as like, oh, we have to do this because we're poor. Not because, you know, and thinking back, my mom in Mexico had her own business as well, making hair products and backpacks. So she had staff as well back in Mexico. And so entrepreneurship is in her, right? I come from a family of merchants. And so, like, not recognizing that and looking down at that because, you know, it's not cool. You know, I don't think I remember it being cool. Like, now entrepreneurship is cool. Everybody puts entrepreneur in their Instagram. Yeah, thank you.
Are you still selling buttons?
I have them in my closet, but until I only start out, then I would only go sell them in big marches and rallies. So whenever the next Women's March was, like, okay, I gotta get a shipment in, gotta get my stuff organized, and then go sell them. Yeah.
I'm really grateful for everything you do back to the community, the living wage, the mentorship. I think that's really amazing and beautiful. Is there anything you can suggest for people in the community like us? Like, what can we do to support this kind of entrepreneurship besides like asking, oh, hey, is this just a side hustle, or, you know, what else can we do?
Yeah, I think it's like uplifting the people who are doing the side hustle, because you'll recognize when it's a side hustle. You'll recognize when that person is starting up, and I think it's uplifting those folks so that when their little Alejandro see that the mom coming around your business selling pupusas out of a basket should be rewarded or should be like praised. I think doing that kind of level of like subliminal like stuff that we do is important. And also, you know, buy 6 more pupusas.
Do you have any tips around just time management? I don't know if you have to juggle school and entrepreneurship stuff, but just for students who want to take classes and start doing stuff?
Sure, yeah. So here's my thought, and it's, again, sometimes it sounds very brutal, but we have to, right now, when you're trying to start up, we have to sacrifice a lot to be able to, at the end, be at an equivalent starting point than somebody else, for example, that just wakes up and says, Mom, I thought of an idea, I want to start a hat company. Okay, you know, here, son, here's, you know, a $5,000 startup money that I'm going to give you for my savings account. Go ahead and go do it. I would say that I preach and I talk a lot about self-care. Right? I remember when I was working in the campaign world, I was like, at 6 p.m., I'm no longer looking at my email. I'm no longer replying back to anybody, because that's when I stopped working. That's when I shut off. With the business, I can't do that. Like, I haven't found a time where I can say, okay, I'm not going to look at my email anymore, or I'm not going to respond to something if it's 10 p.m. or if 11 p.m., right? So, for me, this process is what I enjoy. So, some people enjoy watching 6 episodes of Friends, right? I also like doing that, but I have my laptop on me and, you know, have it in the background. So, like, I just say take care of yourself the way that you know how and where it's good for you. I don't think there's a one, you know, size fits all. Some people are good with apps. You know, I download different apps all the time, and then I forget to click on them, and so they forget to remind me of doing things. So it's just what I found in the process. I happen to enjoy it a lot, and so I don't see it as yeah, oh, I have to do this. In fact, if anything, I remember when I was doing my 9 to 5 work, I was like, I can't wait till 5 o'clock so that I can go there and work on my side business, because that's what I really enjoy doing. So then I would stay up till 1 p.m., 1 a.m. just working, and you know, at that time I only needed 4 hours of sleep, and that's it. Now I don't. I need more hours of sleep. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'll stick around if anybody wants to explain.